In this video, I'm going to tell you about quiet cracking, which is something I covered in another video where many employees these days, they're getting so sick and tired of long work hours, of being stressed out of work with the threat of layoffs, with the threat of just extra work from their management, from difficult co-workers. And there's got quiet cracking at one end, but at the other end, what you actually have is lazy co-workers who seem to be living an easy life, and they end up being able to play the corporate office politics in such a way where they're not really stressed out. And it's a very tricky game because you've got two different groups of employees who are at work at the same time, and one are living the easy life and other group are finding it quite difficult and they're quite cracking. So in this video, we're going to talk about lazy co-workers, some of the strategies they use, right? And if you're interested, something I cover with my coaching clients is I offer career coaching, right? So if you're a hard worker, you're burnt out and you're seeing lazy co-workers who are coasting, like we're going to go through in this video, it's important to really focus on your long-term security, whether that's financially, financial freedom, getting promoted, finding a unique solution for you. And this is what I do with a lot of my clients, right? Teaching you how to rise above a lot of the mediocrity you're dealing with at work, how to secure leverage and options in your career, and how to escape the trap, right, in the corporate world before it breaks you, and how to deal with some of these lazy co-workers as we'll go through right now. So schedule a call with me. There is a link in the description to speak with me directly. Now let's go through this little clip here first. Now, just to give you a bit of background, these are two employees who worked as product managers and that type of tech type of role. And this clip went viral around the lockdowns because many people were working without doing any work and getting paid high six-figure salaries, while competent employees were actually losing their job, right? So let's go and listen to an example here of how this actually works.
Keep saying I need to make like a tech TikTok, because if you look at my TikTok, you'd never guess I have a job. So anyways, this is our current workstation. Callie and I are what you call product managers. Callie, what is your team over?
My team is over reporting and internal tools.
And I am over what we call card experience. So we work on anything from activating your credit card to freezing, reissue, shipping, all the good stuff. What's a PM?
We help prioritize and help the engineers stay on track and help them know what to build so that you have a product to use.
Yeah, exactly. So you might have a team, like the engineers actually do the developing, the coding, which is the impressive part. Designers also do the impressive part, which is everything you see when you're in a software. Product managers essentially decide what the team's going to work on, do competitive research, prioritize bugs, keep everyone focused, motivated, and driving towards business outcomes. So that's what we do. And we work from home, which means you work from the internet.
So this is our office today.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope all you coworkers are happy. I'm branching out into the tech niche. My coworkers keep saying I need to make all product managers.
So this meme and this actual image right here of those two next to each other, I think I've covered it in a previous video, or maybe a video coming up, whereby the South Park, someone made a South Park style, art style meme of this, right? Because many people notice this around the lockdowns, you know, how your co-workers are not doing any work, right? And there's a clear divide in many cases between workers who work hard and feel overworked, like my other videos about quiet cracking, versus employees who are lazy co-workers who are getting paid to do nothing, right? This clip has went viral. I've seen it. It's got over like 1 million on Twitter or X. I'm sure it's got tons of views on TikTok too. You can see from the screen it's actually got 44,000 likes over, right? Now, the whole point is it's like, you know, two workers who are working from home, they're not doing much work, they're getting paid a lot, right? They don't seem to know what their job is. Like when you listen to them, do they actually sound like they know what their job is, right? They say the product manager, they're not even sure how to describe their job. Like, what does a product manager do? And they'll definitely be on high six-figure salaries based on the way it sounds. They're in tech, fintech, some type of finance tech role, to help mention like card experience, like that, which I assume is like maybe a card company, something like that. And they don't know what they need to do. They just talk about keeping work, helping work stay on track, right? And prioritizing tasks and kind of their job to do nothing. And I realize there's many women like this, so many people like this in general, but particularly a girl boss archetype, whereby they'll be in management, middle management, some type of administrative role that is quite well paid. They don't actually know any of the technical elements of the job. Many people like this who are getting paid a lot, they spend half the day chit-chatting in the office, or if they're working from home, as you can see here, they're not doing much work. And and it's their job to keep other employees focused and motivated. So what are they meant to be, like cheerleaders in the office, or just, task and creating funny presentations and spreadsheets, but not actually doing any work, right? It's kind of a pointless job. So, and a lot of these companies that have really pointless job roles, right? And unfortunately, you might be the type of person working hard and you have to deal with these type of people, right? I think the girl who's standing in the pool, now, she talked about doing customer experience. Now, I understand you've got to have good customer service, but a lot of these additional type of customer experience, management type of roles, a lot of those jobs are doing nothing apart from maybe just like making customers good or checking in with them, doing a client survey. Is kind of the lazy typical AWFL, right? The affluent white female liberal in a workplace environment, right? And in the tech niche, as we're seeing in other departments and other industries too, they're the first people to get fired, hopefully. But sometimes you see ironic scenarios where they're keeping their job and then hardworking tech employees are losing their job. Now, there's other examples of this, as we can see here, from a financial dystopia. This has 4.4 million views, and it demonstrates the office is daycare for adults. Let's go through. This is Roblox, right? This is based in California. It's like they have about 2,000 employees. They're making $4 billion worth of revenue. But let's see how much time wasting these employees do.
Ever wondered what Roblox employees eat every day? Well, today I'm visiting my cousin Gary, and I'm about to experience the tech bro life myself. We started with their in-house cafe, which serves fancy lattes and even matcha, so I ended up getting the strawberry matcha, which was so good. And then we went up to their buffet-style cafeteria, which had the classic salad and sandwich bars, plus house-made soups, and they even have stations with rotating menus, and today was Japanese-style cuisine. The most shocking part was they have a dedicated stone-fired pizza station. Another thing is Roblox is serious about their employees' health, so their drink fridge was packed with tea, vitamin waters, fresh juices, and smoothies, plus snacks like dried fruits, protein bars, and yogurt. But as the pastry chef, I was here to desserts. My mind was blown. They had bakery quality dessert. I expected cookies or brownies, but this was next level. Now I finally get why everyone wants to be a tech bro. Roblox is not just for kids, it's for adults too. Ever wondered what
There's a couple key words in this that I want you to pay attention to, right? She said, this is why people want to work the tech bro life. And this is what a lot of girl boss personality types typically see the work environment as. And not just them, there are certain men who act like this too, where they don't want to actually do the actual work. What they want to do is they just want the appearance of work. They want the social status of saying they work in tech or finance or a particular industry, or they have a specific job title, and they play all the correct corporate roles. They have the correct act of professionalism without productivity that many of these corporations, and they're not actually the people who get the work done. And sometimes the people who are getting the work done and having to bear the load of multiple other lazy employees, they might not conduct themselves in this kind of uber safe, politically correct, nice girl or nice guy type of way. Typically the coders or the developers, maybe the very skilled finance guys, they might not be the typical politically correct, dressing up and speaking a particular way, professional type. They might be a little bit quirky, have a little bit of a unique personality, let's just say, right? And this is the thing, right? A lot of people like this, that they're like the woman you see on your screen right now, they tend to get preferential treatment, even though they're a lazy employee, just because they're playing the role of being that professional corporate type, right? Now, there's many benefits to working to some of these places, as you can see here. I assume that either they're paying for their own food or the company subsidizes it. They mentioned here the in-house cafe, the matcha, the latte, the buffet, the canteen, stone-fire pizza, different drink options too, kombucha and things like that. But what's interesting here is the way these corporations are increasingly working, and you see Goldman Sachs recently announced this and developed a really brand new office in the last few years in London. JP Morgan's done something similar in New York, where they build a massive office block where you're meant to spend your entire life. They have multiple coffee shops at different levels of the skyscraper. They have a massive gym on the basement. They have this at Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, many other major banks. They have shower facilities. They have kind of relaxing facilities like that healthcare type of situation where you have a GP on site. Been to some of those facilities when I did work in investment banking at Goldman's and Morgan Stanley, and I think on one hand it's good, but a lot of the times when you see things like that, like you see at Roblox too throughout that video, when you see this at also hedge funds and private equity firms where they have some of the similar facilities, like a chef that can make any food that you want. The whole idea there, you think, it's fun and cozy and you can hang out and play pool with your co-workers and table tennis and things like that. what a lot of this is to keep you at work all the time, to treat your work like it's your life, right? And all your social life should revolve around work too. You should always go for work drinks. You should always hang out with your co-workers. And then on the weekend, you meet up with your co-workers because you're renting an apartment maybe in the same part of London or New York, wherever it would be, right? The whole point is to kind of life revolving around the office and that job. Your whole personal identity is linked to it. So you don't really focus on a side hustle, focus on an escape plan because you'd like to be there forever until they decide to get rid of you in a layoff, right? Now, also always think about, type, the girl boss, the soy boy, the bug man, the typical liberal male, who are so easily brainwashed by this system. They're so easily convinced that, oh, I'm working for this corporation, and as long as I play my part and I be a good boy and I parrot the right opinions and I do what they tell me, they'll treat me well. They'll have me as an employee, and I'll be employed there forever. But of course, that doesn't happen. And what ends up happening is these corporations, firstly, they could pay you much higher salary if you work from home, but they choose not to because they want to be a good slave and be in the office. They want RTO, return to the office, rather than WFH, work from home. So they want you in the office so you're easier to control. And like I say, they could technically go, let's scale back the canteen, scale back some of these other facilities and offer employees a higher salary, but they don't want that because they'd rather offer all those facilities and, salary a bit, salaries, because they'll provide that so you spend more time in the office and you actually spend less time going to the gym or eating healthy because you end up just, actually at the desk doing your work and working with co-workers and hanging out with them than actually living your lifestyle on your terms, right? And what I realized is other men who will have more critical thinking skills, people like me too, I would say, if you're watching this and you can see through a lot of the corporate BS, what ends up happening is you would rather work from home and you'd rather, a pay rise to home, or you'd say, listen, I don't mind taking a pay cut to work from home. Many people, let me know in the comments, you'd probably take a pay cut to work from home just so you don't have to be like around the personality type. You just want to get your work done and live your life on your schedule however you want to live it, right? And then she's talking about, eat from pastries and stuff like that.
Plus housemaid soup.
If we just skip forward a bit. When I see behavior like this, I know she's a grown adult, but this is the typical thing where people say, our personality type, like a childish behavior, judging different desserts. It's like you're a grown adult. You should be at your desk working, right? And, when there's, people want to be a tech bro, right? No, people want to be a tech bro to make a good amount of money, to build things that they see as useful too, right? If you talk about the typical tech bro, maybe it's a stereotype. They might, be quote unquote nerdy. They might be a bit more focused on the work. They actually want to earn a higher salary and build things that they want to build, right? Like an engineer would, right? Like a mechanic would maybe design a car, or an architect would design a house, things like that. It's not to give the appearance of working. Oh, it's so nice to be working here. Everything she's doing here is about looking for attention, right? It's attention seeking. It's not actually based on being a productive employee. Now, behavior, and not like it's not even about the salary. It's not like she's focused on bragging about how much money she's making. It's not achieving things, not building things. It's about this meaningless stuff that you see these people doing, right? And the thing, these are the type of personalities you often have to work with. We've got this woman here I just showed you. Then we've got these other two examples here. I've worked at a lot of top companies, like I say, at Morgan Stanley, Goldman's, other investment banks. I've interviewed successfully in many big four companies, like I say, hedge funds, private equities, all these type of things. There's so many people like this, right? There's so many people like this that you have to deal with, right? They want to treat them as an equal. And it's like, how can I treat you as an equal where you're like conducting like a child as a grown adult, right? In what sense is she equal to a male software engineer who has 10 years experience and is technically proficient and doing the work that's propping up this company so she can live an easy life on the back of his hard work? Her lifestyle is effectively subsidized by doing no work, so some guy in the office can actually do the work. The video she's produced here has nothing to do with Roblox, which is the company, nothing to do with, like I say, even money or tech. It's all to do with this attention-seeking behavior. As you can see from the first response here from a meme account, it says time to short the stock. Yeah, which, a financial investment that Roblox as a company is going to do bad in the future because they're spending so much money on wasted employees and wasted resources. There's this meme, I think I showed this in another video. It says the TikTokers didn't realize the first time, right? There's someone, I don't know if this was actually on South Park. It was just someone made it through AI or something. These women who are at work and aren't working. Then we've got Chip White. Someone else responded here. They said, This is why X or Twitter was able to fire 80% of their staff and still function. And this comes to this image, right, which is a famous image that has gone viral. Again, it's gone millions of views. I've seen it all the time come up again and again. It's like, what was Twitter like before Elon Musk and after Elon Musk? Now, before Elon Musk, you can see it's this image with the majority woman, white woman of different ethnicities. It had liberal men, the soy boy, weak man, beta male type, right? And feminist woman. And then Elon Musk got rid of 80% of the employees at Twitter, an extremely high amount. I don't have the exact number. He got rid of all these people who were just busybodies who were getting paid high six-figure salaries. And he was like, why do we have this department? Why do we have all these people there? They're not doing anything. He got rid of them, their political correctness, their censorship. And who are the type of guys who are building this successful tech company, right? Once he cut all the jobs. It's a lot of Asian and brown employees, right? And what does this say about, and men, they're all men. And there's some white guys too there, right? And I'm sure there's black employees there too. And there's one woman I can see in the background. The point is this, what does this say employees? And you see this all the time in many companies, right? And hopefully the layoffs are getting rid of the lazy employees. Maybe it's impacting productive employees too, but there's a lot of bloated time wasting that comes when you make the office daycare for adults, when you hire all these girl boss types, right? These liberal men, these feminist women, they're not doing much, right? And who are the guys who are doing all the work to prop up all these other demographics? It's the guys you can see around Elon Musk right now, typically male employees. And this went viral. People say it shows it's misogynist and Twitter's misogynist and it's cutting out women and liberals and whatever. But this is the reality that you have to come across again, time and time again, at all these different companies. Right? And this is the thing, it's just very difficult to deal with this sometimes. And I just want to contrast these lazy employees we just went through with what's going on with quiet cracking. Now, I covered quiet cracking in some other videos, but I want to go through what's actually going on the other side of that, right? What happens when employees have to work hard and they have to deal with these lazy and get to live an easy life, right? Here it says, so quiet cracking is when employees are hard and they're doing the opposite. They're not being lazy, but they're cracking up. And this is what you see with a lot of employees now. Quiet cracking is when workers show up, they do their job, but they struggle in silence. And then it also mentions here, what we've seen in the job market more recently is that a lot of folks are actually staying with their current employer, but they're not actually thriving. Now, what ends up happening now, you end up working at a current, right, and you end up being burnt out. There's no sense of hope in the future, not just in the career or the economy and socially too. You're not making much progress in getting promoted. And you're seeing these other demographics who are living an easy life and they don't understand why you're stressed out and you don't understand why they seem to be chilled out and not doing much work, right? So this is the type of thing we're seeing time and time again, right? Many people are worried about job security, right? So they're not job hopping, they're not staying somewhere that they hate around these type of lazy employees. And then and I covered this in another video, there's a topic, a buzzword called job hugging. Many people are hugging their job, keeping a job that they might not like because they're so worried about job hopping and then dealing with a layoff, and then all of a sudden they've left one job and then they lost their new job because the job market is so unstable right now, right? And this is what happens. And this is dealing with this type of environment. The only people that seem to benefit is the laziest people in society and the system and many companies, because it can always undercut employees who are job hopping. The real productive employees are bearing the burden of propping up this society, the same way productive members of the economy, right, the working age people, are paying higher and higher taxes for more and more people living on government handouts, more and more people on food stamps, for example, more and more migrants flooding into a country, not working, living in fancy hotels, more and more people who are on government benefits having large, while you can't even afford to buy a house or be in a healthy relationship and have 1 or 2 kids, right? The people who are the productive members of society are bearing the burden more and more for companies undercutting them with wages, not getting decent pay rises, not getting well-deserved promotions, dealing with lazy employees, and corporations who are squeezing them out of them, not only through inflation and price rises and greedflation, but also, like I say, not getting paid well, and they're propping up other demographics, right? And this is really down on a lot of people. And then also, just to add to that, right, I do think that there is obviously legitimacy to a high number of layoffs. But in addition to that, I think big corporations and the media, they also benefit from kind of creating this constant sense of fear for people, because then everyone's worried about job security. And some of the news articles, I think, make it worse. So people are even more scared about their boss and speaking up and standing up for themselves or job hopping. This says here, the current job market has many workers avoid leaving their jobs. Even if they're unhappy, they're worried about economic uncertainty. Hiring is down and job switching is not really leading to a lot of salary increases. You know, some people are switching jobs just to stay in the job market, right? Because they're worried about a layoff at their current company, or they job switch and they might have to take a pay cut just to find any job they can get, or they end up getting a slight pay rise but nothing massive. A lot of folks actually feel stuck where they currently are, and they're not necessarily and it's not necessarily that they're making a choice around it. They're just having to continue to be at a company they don't like because the other choices available to them aren't really that better. There's a lot of high employee disengagement, dissatisfaction, which can erode morale and hurt productivity and contribute to even more burnout. Promotions are harder to come by as companies overhaul their performance reviews, enforce return to the office policies, and carry out mass layoffs. So let's go through that in a bit of detail, right? So we already know economy and socially, the society is completely an effed up situation. But what I've seen happen, right, and promotions are harder to come by, but also, and I covered this in my other about Citigroup or HSBC, if you check my other videos on my channel from a few weeks ago, what ends up happening is Citigroup, for example, a major investment bank, HSBC again, major big bank, what they do is they change how they band everyone in terms of performance. They'd be like, so instead of having like a large portion of their employees be banded, like the top 20% are high performers, mid are average performers, and then the lowest 20% are low performers. Now they've changed the way they do it. Just to give an example, they might say, okay, we have to, because we want to fire them, we're going to raise the band. We're going to have each team manager has to at least 30% of their employees as low performers or underperformers. And that gives them more bandwidth to fire employees, right? So you struggle more to kind of keep, because always they're going to have some employees who are in the lower band, so they can get rid of them, right? And then more people have to return to the office, so that's creating all types of issues and stress for people who are working quite comfortably at home. Maybe childcare issues, they were looking after their kids at home, now they have to be in the office, so they have to increase their cost on childcare. And then mass layoffs, of course, people are perpetually worried about that. So it's really created a lot of issues for people where they're just perpetually out. And the section I highlighted, it says there's many physical manifestations, such as an employee being sick, fatigued, or complaining about headaches more often than usual. Now, I had to deal with this earlier on in my career where I would get a lot of migraines, right? Or headaches, you know, and that's particularly because I was in toxic managers, really toxic managers. I had a few instances of toxic co-workers, but it was typically like management, like people one layer above me who were difficult and shouting and swearing and essentially being bullies in the office. That would really make me hate my job, because I like to do work, right? I like to be productive, but that was very difficult to deal with. And I'm sure many of you have probably dealt with this, but the way it plays out, if you can't respond to them and defend yourself and set boundaries, you end up having like fits, which means you start feeling sick, you start dealing with headaches, because you end up internalizing a lot of that never-ending stress. Now, this is typically what you'd have to deal with. So how do we deal with quiet cracking? You're dealing with these lazy employees, which we covered earlier, and then we're dealing with more employees here. And then you're not in a situation where you're working maybe at Twitter, where Elon Musk is going to clear out the time-wasting employees. You're dealing with quiet cracking. And what are some of the solutions? And we're going to have some jokes that, this is the typical like corporate where it's going to give you typically useless advice. And I'm going to talk about some solutions that actually will help you. Now, they say if you're dealing with quiet cracking, you're stressed out at work, here's how you should deal with it. Or here's how you and your manager should be dealing with it. Firstly, they say you should normalize conversations about stress and burnout, right? Employees should check in with their managers and let them know if they're struggling. I don't think you should do this because you would get red flagged, right? If you go to your manager and say, I'm stressed out about work, I'm burnt out about things, Firstly, they're not going to say it to you directly. They're going to pretend to be fake nice because they don't want you to sue the company for mental health discrimination. First thing they're going to do is take your workload and maybe give it to other people, and not the low priority tasks that are really draining your time, that are really annoying. They're going to take the high priority, high visibility projects and give them to the manager's favorite employees they can get promoted quicker, and they can basically take more of your work and you can get pushed out. So they'll leave you with the low priority, boring work. And I've seen this happen many times at major investment banks, whereby a managing director, or one specific example of this is a managing director was making a few insulting jokes about a female employee. And sometimes people find it funny, but she didn't find it funny. And then she went to HR to complain about him. And the way he retaliated, apart from doing a fake apology, is he basically dumped her with all the most boring tasks. She was essentially checking like alerts for the system all day for years, for like a year and a half, until she quit the company and went somewhere else. That's how he got her back at her, right? And how they'll get back at you for, saying, oh, you've been given too much, we can't handle it. They'll just give you low priority work. That means that you're going to be deemed useless, or eventually that work you're doing can be easily outsourced to India or some other country, or automated. You'll just get work where you're never going to make any progress. That's why it's not a good idea to tell management you're quiet cracking or dealing with stress and burnout, right? What you should do is identify your workload and present it in a way, if you're going to discuss it with management, like these are the high priority tasks, of course, that our team need, that you need as management. Present ourselves quite well to senior management, not my career to get promoted, but also for our company to do well and our team to do well and be perceived as doing well, for others, right? And other people would do. So in that case, what I'd prefer to do is focus on these tasks, and the other tasks maybe we can give to a junior employee. Maybe we have other outsourcing teams that can assist with that. That's how you deal with it. You limit your workload by presenting in a way you're going to focus on the high priority tasks. The second thing is spot the subtle signs, right? What it means is, what are the subtle you could notice on yourself, right? Now, if you're dealing with these signs like, feeling ill, feeling feeling overworked, again, don't tell your manager. If you notice it yourself, just think seriously about why this is happening. What are the thoughts of your future progress that are bothering you? What are really bothering you about your current situation? Because like I say, your body is going to give you signs. The same way you might get a random headache every Monday, it probably means you hate your job or the particular work you're doing, or every time you have to deal with a specific difficult employee, maybe a Wednesday meeting, it's probably because there's a genuine reason why you feel that, and maybe you have to have a conversation with that person or change the working dynamic there. But you don't go and tell other people you have these subtle signs. You always have headaches when you have to deal with certain workloads and things like that. That's not going to work out for you. But often, some of those subtle signs of, with missed deadlines, poor performance, feeling withdrawn, less enthusiastic, feeling overwhelmed, those subtle signs you should think about long term. Is it because I can't handle the job, or I want to take an easier job, or I want to focus on self-employment over the long term? What is the solution for you? And that's what you should be thinking about. What is the long-term solution? Because if you go from one job to the next in your field, in your industry, and it's the same thing, you're dealing with difficult people, you're not getting paid enough, you feel like, okay, I'm not really getting ahead, I can't even life I want to live, I'm working too many hours. And the other thing that I'll talk about is I'm in an environment whereby maybe you're working in London or New York and you don't like the liberal values, you're more conservative, for example, or traditional. You might think, you know what, I don't mind my job, but it's just I'm in daily, or even in my social life, my life in a place like this for too long, right? And in that case, then you have to think about what is your long-term solution to this issue, right? In some cases, it would mean saving money, leaving, working abroad, setting up your side business until you reached even a basic income of a couple grand a month. You might be able to move abroad and live a better quality of life. And then we've got other signs, right? It talks about here rebuilding psychological safety, right? Employees are more likely to cope, bounce back, and ask for support when they feel psychologically safe. This means they trust their teams and leaders enough to be honest with them so they won't be judged or penalized. Now, we all know that is a complete joke, right? This is the corporate advice you'd get if you went to your corporate job and ask HR or ask your manager or read HR official websites like this, right? In the sense that, when you want to rebuild psychological safety, your company doesn't care about your psychological safety, right? It's not like you're going to go there and say, I feel I'm being judged and penalized and dealt with unfairly. They're going to see you as a risk of like an employment lawsuit, right? So you don't tell them. The way you do it is the same way when we talk about quiet quitting, which I've covered in many other videos. when you want to do quiet quitting and you want to leave a company and hopefully secure a layoff or get fired while you focus on your side hustle, you just put less and less effort in at work. You slowly decrease your effort, right? You slowly go from putting 100% in at work to 99%, then 95, then 80, then 70, and you slowly reduce your effort over several months, not like several days, several weeks and months. So you can basically stretch out that time period where you can do less work, get paid the same, and maybe focus on your side hustle or finding another job, whatever it be. When it comes to this, and psychological safety is you set boundaries with your work, with arriving on time, leaving on time, setting clear boundaries, figuring out, I wouldn't say excuses, but a solution where if you're asking you to work on a Thursday night, you say, well, no, I have a physiotherapy appointment, or I have to pick up my nephew or niece from their after school club. I really can't do that. So the whole point is you're setting the hard boundaries time and time again, right? And you do it over time. You take, for this, I would say a few weeks to set those boundaries. Or if you're dealing with a difficult coworker, you have a one-on-one meeting with them, clear the air and set boundaries there, right? And then stand up for yourself, because people will keep pushing your boundaries in the corporate environment. It's just the way it is. Next thing is providing support beyond the performance metrics, right? It's talking about how, managers need to support their employees on output, and then they need to focus on your well and meaningful recognition and ensuring people feel connected to work. And what is this? This is corporate BS, HR Karen type of wording. It's like, oh, your manager's going to care about your well-being and mental health, which they don't, right? They want meaningful recognition, right? Meaningful recognition in the corporate world means you get a pat on the head, a pat on the back from your manager, saying, oh, you've done well, great job, which is like the way a teacher would tell you when you're at school, oh, you're doing a great job. And it's like, I don't really care that about my manager's approval. I care about the making. And many people, in my opinion, particularly more emotional, weak men, more women in the workplace too, whereby they will just, oh, I've got the attention I'm looking for and the validation. It doesn't matter if I'm not getting a pay rise this year. They really value me here. That's the corporate brainwashing. That's the corporate Kool-Aid. I care about the money. I don't give a fuck if the manager likes me or not. And I try to keep on good terms with them, but I care about the money. You're not going to give me a pat on the head when I've been working overtime or extra hours for the last few months and I'm not going to get a decent bonus or pay rise, right? That's why you've got to set clear boundaries. And in many cases, for most corporate jobs, being average or being a B+ player just above average is what you need to do, right? So be careful about aiming to be the best employee ever if you're not really reaping any of the benefits there, right? But one thing I would do here, right, is when you're thinking about performance metrics and, how companies can support you, if, of course, they're not doing more for your mental health or give you more time off work, is think about how you can use the company. If the company's really using you, think about how you can use them. And the most obvious thing would be try to get them to maybe pay for a professional qualification. If you're maybe working in sales, you want to do a sales training course, maybe a few courses online, you could let them know, look, I've got these 5 courses. I really want to use these courses online to help become a better employee, a better salesperson. Would the company be willing to subsidize that? Or find the professional qualification for sales in your industry and say, I want to attend these particular sales courses. Would the company be willing to pay for that? Or other things you can do is go for sales conferences in your industry and try to network there to find another job, but maybe the company can subsidize that or give you time off work to go to those. These are all the little type of tricks you got to use, right? Is figure out if the company's using you and you're burning out, how can you use them, right? Rather than just simply, whinge to your manager that you got to manage you. The other thing it says here, train leaders to lead human first, right? Ultimately, it's managers who should focus on their employees' well-being and with empathy and action and emotional intelligence and coaching skills and compassionate communication. Now, this is ridiculous. Again, this is the type of things you'll have time and time again in corporate, where they're going to give you this meaningless wording that is never really playing out. Do you think your manager is going to have emotional intelligence and compassionate communication? This is the ridiculous things, right? Leaders don't care about their employees' well-being. Leaders care about results, right? They don't care if you're depressed and you're dealing with a divorce and you're dealing with a breakup and you can't afford to buy a house and your social life is completely, you don't have a social life because you're too busy working. They don't care about that, right? The only thing companies really worry about, managers worry about, HRs worry about, or the only thing that companies, managers and HR care about is if you're going to have an employment lawsuit with them, if you're going to sue the company, right? Or you're going to be the next person who's going to go to social media and companies. So you're treated as a risky employee if you start flagging that the company is creating bad mental health for you, right? Or leading you to quiet cracking, however you want to word it. So the thing is, what you need to do is, and unfortunately this is how it is for most people, is you're kind of isolated and you have to find a solution for yourself, right? And you have to keep that information to yourself. How can you do that? Of course, you can journal, you can draw diagrams. I have different notepads and sketch pads where if I'm dealing with a solution or something's really bothering me, I'm trying to figure it out, I essentially draw out what the solution could be. I write to myself, or I make notes in my own Word document on my personal laptop, not the work laptop, of course. It's like, okay, what is this situation I'm dealing with? What is the plan? A financial target I'm trying to hit, a business goal I'm trying to reach, skills I'm trying to develop. And then I find a solution to that, right? Whether it involves the company or not, whether it involves job hopping, taking a risky move for a business, whether it requires taking a step back in my career so I can work more remotely. These are the type of things you need to think about, right? And what will end up happening, right, if you're at a company and you're dealing with quiet cracking, as we put here, right, this whole idea of quiet cracking, is what will happen is if you do flag it to your manager, you're dealing with workplace burnout. Not only will they give your work to other team members, so you'll get more low priority work, they'll just over time see you and perceive you and write your performance reviews in a way that would present you as a low performer, that you're just not good enough to get the job done. And eventually they're either going to push you out, or you'll push yourself out and leave through either a layoff or through essentially your job hopping, because you can't succeed there and you get more and more depressed, right? So what is the real answer? The real answer is to figure out the root cause which is causing you to deal with quiet cracking, which could be difficult employees, a bad company culture that gives these tards right here all this beneficial treatment. You have to deal with this woman who's making 50% more than you, who spends 3 hours at the canteen, right? And then you have to figure out what are the boundaries you need to set, what's the long-term life plan and lifestyle balance you're looking for, finding a short-term solution, which could be job hopping, could be aggressively pushing for a promotion and then job hopping, which I've seen many people do successfully, or the long-term solution, which would be, hitting financial freedom and things like that. So if you're dealing with these type of scenarios, this is exactly what I can help with, right? So if you're seeing you're a hard worker, you're dealing with lazy co-workers who are coasting, and you're realizing you can't reach, financial freedom, job security, you're not getting promoted, go through all these different type of scenarios, including specifically working with the girl boss types, reaching financial freedom, how to deal with getting a promotion, and when you have a difficult manager like some of the people that we just seen who would be in management, how to develop the leverage to job hop and do your job search effectively, right, to escape the trap before you end up getting trapped, right? So if you're interested, if you want to move forward now before the economy continues to get worse, schedule a call with me. There is a link in description. And let me know what you think about the people we've seen in this video. 2 recommended videos on your screen right now. I'll see you next time.